All right, we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Ranting and Rolling podcast, the Message of Music series. I am Crash, also known as the Odd Crapple, or whatever you want to call me based on what your mood is. It really doesn't bother me. Today, I have two of probably the coolest humans on the planet. What's that?
That's a stretch.
Well, I mean, I think in general, every person I've interacted with to some degree is, deserves that title for different reasons. Amelia Wargo and Mike Karcher, two people I have known. Actually, Mike, you and I have known each other longer than I've known Amelia. Mm-hmm. And that actually occurred to me the other day because you and I essentially, although not directly, worked together.
Yeah. 2003?
Nope.
2005. Okay.
Yeah, because I was
2003.
Yeah. Was it 2005? I don't know. It was either 2005 or 2007. I'm not entirely sure because I was the specific location where we worked. I was there both years, so it could have been one of those two times.
Okay. I would have been 2005 because I wasn't there in 2007.
Okay, so I was working in the foods department of Six Flags at the time. I thought I was working front entrance, but that was 2007. But anyway. Obviously, the two of you are performers, and Mike, you and I met when I was before I could drink. Amelia met me after I could drink, and thankfully I didn't make too much of a bad impression, or at least I don't think I did. But Amelia, you and I have actually worked closer together in the sense that you were involved in the very first charity fundraiser that I did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, in summer of 2009, I believe it was.
Wow.
We're old. I'm going to say it. We're old.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You speak for yourself.
I mean, I'm just going to say it because I'm far enough away where you can't, dismantle my chair and, beat the living crap out of me. Aren't you older than both of us?
A little bit.
But
so that's if I'm not old, you guys can't be old.
Well, I mean, you're only as old as you feel. And the thing is, they always say, once you, start feeling like you can't move around as well, that's when you start to feel old. But I mean, I'm like one of those action figures. I come with my own wheelchair. So regardless of how old I get, I already come with the accessories.
So you're not.
See?
There you go.
Oh man.
So, to kind of give some backstory, Mike, when you and I met, we were working for Six Flags in different capacities, obviously. You were with arguably, I believe, the most recognized Elvis tribute artist in the country, Jim Cawley, who is still a very good friend of mine. And I try to reach out to on a regular basis, but he still keeps himself very, very busy, which I commend him for. But even in the times that we're in right now, it's nice to see that he's still able to, keep occupied.
I mean, he's always got something going on, and he was always that way. He was always busy.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think, and, obviously you having worked closer with him, you can, speak more to this, but as an outsider looking in, he always seemed to have the type of work ethic that I wish I could develop. He seemed very dedicated to what he did.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like all of his suits and stuff, he made all those suits. So I noticed it a lot more when we were down. We did a casino thing in Mississippi.
Yep.
And we had an apartment next to his. And anytime he'd stop over to his apartment, he'd be over there like working on one of his costumes or a new costume, or just always. He had like this perpetual like 13-year-old like zest for doing stuff, the stuff that he loved.
Yeah.
It was pretty inspiring to be around.
Yeah, that's admirable.
Yeah. And as I said, Amelia, you and I met when I was legal to drink. Mm-hmm. So I think for the both of you, would you still consider yourselves local performers? Like, even though you're, obviously in a different location for the most part, at least I would, because local versus unsigned, I guess.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly do.
So what is it like, in your words, to be like a local performer? And have you ever had aspirations or have either of you had aspirations of being a signed artist?
I never did.
No.
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think when I was a little girl, I was like, I want to be Whitney Houston, or I want to be Beyonce, or I want to be Mariah Carey. And, as I got older, and you watch how, the industry shifts and how things change. And so like really around the time that, my prime, when I should have been signed or whatever, like, that like 17, 18-year-old age is like when Britney Spears was big and Christina Aguilera. And I didn't ever really idolize that or like that. Yeah. And at that age too, I think I remember thinking like, I don't want to be something that somebody else thinks I should be. Mm-hmm. I mean, I went out, when I was like in my 20s, I went out for American Idol, basically because a lot of people wanted me to, and that's the only reason I did it. But, I wasn't like super, that was never really something that I really, truly wanted to do.
One of the things I think that, I don't know that I knew it at the time, but later on I found out, when, around the time that we were teenagers, when you had, obviously the Britney, the Christina, the boy bands, and then you had somebody like Pink come along. One of the things that she talked about in her music really shined some light on previous artists that I didn't know, was how much a record label at the time really tried to develop a persona for the artist.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't who that person was. So, you could have been a great artist as yourself, but the record label had an idea of what would sell instead of introducing you as, the person that they signed. Sure. Because obviously they signed these people based on what they saw, but then they decided to completely flip that on its ass and do something completely different that was marketable.
Yeah.
And that's what I never understood. If you sign somebody, you obviously think they're going to be marketable. Why are you going to flip that and, do something that is completely alien to them?
Yeah. It's an interesting concept. I mean, I obviously I don't know much of the reasoning behind it.
Right.
I guess just trends and youth, and
people think they know better than the artist does. They're like,
yeah,
know what sells, even though they really don't. Because if they did, every album would sell. even back then, like there were mega stars, and then there were albums that went nowhere.
That's true.
Yeah. Mike, you, because of performing with Jim, have you had an opportunity to work with artists that are, I guess, considered mainstream? And if so, what was that like compared to performing, on a local level?
Nothing because of Jim. Working with Jim was great, but after I worked with Jim, I started doing Broadway.
Oh, cool.
And I did that for 13 years or so. Again, so I did the Bodyguard tour. That was with Deborah Cox. I I work with a ton of talented people, but no real superstars besides Deborah.
I love Deborah Cox. When I found out that she was in The Bodyguard, I was like, what? I love her. I was so excited. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. She's great.
But before I worked with Jim, I actually, when I was about 22, I moved down to the city to try to do original music, but never wanting to be a household name or superstar or anything. I thought more it would be maybe like on the level of a band like Clutch or something like that, where you're able to do albums, you're able to tour and just self-sustain.
Yeah.
But it was, and so it was fun, but it was a lot of hard work, and it was, it got to be just, we did that for about 4 years. It was just too much, trying to get everybody on the same page, booking everything, writing everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's kind of like I compare it like if you had a cart, right? You had a wagon full of stuff and you're trying to pull it up a hill. Like, come on, let's go up the hill. It's a lot easier if you just let go of the cart and start walking. Or just like, I'm going to stop trying to, pull a band and all this stuff and just start being guitar player, for hire sort of thing.
As far as my recollection, I don't know that I ever saw you perform with any of the bands that I saw on the weekends. So, I mean, did you perform with any local bands up in, outside of working with Jim?
Yeah, I played with Mischief a lot.
Oh, okay.
I was in a acoustic duo called Dreaded Wheat. And I did solo things. I did film work. So it was always kind of just being out, working with Jim. Like sometimes you'd be available to do stuff. Sometimes you wouldn't be available to do stuff. Sometimes and then after doing theater stuff, sometimes I'd be available for a month. Sometimes I'd be available for 3 months. So a real way to build up a local following.
Yeah.
Being that I could go a year or 2 years without doing a gig. And,
now, going back to like early days, do you guys remember what got you listening to music versus what got you interested in performing?
That line is very blurred for me. And say that because my parents are musicians. And they had a band and they practiced in the house all the time. And so as long as I can remember, I've always been a singer. I've always loved performing. I mean, there are videos of me as like a 3-year-old with the microphone in the room that my parents would practice in. And my dad had a sequencer that he would, they had a bigger band. So, and it was the 90s. So it was like time of late 80s, early 90s. So sequence was big. And so they like push play in the sequencer and there I'd be singing, Mariah Carey and all that stuff. And so as long as I can remember, I've always, it's just, I don't know. It's in my blood.
Yeah.
As far as me, it's also a little blurred. I can certainly always remember music, always being like, interested in music, and I think I started playing drums when I was very young, but that may have been more. I think my brother wanted me to be a drummer, so I didn't really have that fire. But there is a picture we just recently took out some pictures, and there's a picture of me sitting at a drum kit, and behind me is like a little organ. So clearly, I was interested in music back when I was real young, but for whatever reason, drums didn't take. I probably just didn't have the patience at that age, and then it wasn't until. I was like 14, I think. I started playing guitar. That's when.
Would you be surprised to know that the whole reason I started listening to music was because of an experience at Six Flags before it became Six Flags?
Really?
Yes.
You know, I went to Six Flags too.
Really?
Probably around the same time that you guys were there.
I obviously the particular park that we're talking about has been around since I believe 1950.
Yeah, it's been around for a very long time.
So when I was a kid, it obviously had no affiliation with Six Flags, but the one thing I know that you guys probably are at least loosely familiar with, Double H Hole in the Woods in Lake Luzerne. When the very first year they were accepting kids was 1993, and I remember because Charlie Wood was part of the reason that Double H existed. He made it so the kids from camp could always go to the park because he owned the park as well. So the very first year of camp, I went, and this was before the Magical Mystery Tour was outside. It was still in.
I remember that being inside.
Yeah.
It was still in the dome, and I think that they should have kept it in the dome because it was nice and air conditioned in there. But
it was right?
Pardon?
No.
The
Magical Mystery Tour wasn't. It was
no. The Magical Mystery Tour was right in the main fest area.
Oh, I know where you're talking. Okay, yeah.
It was. I think it was just shy of the go-karts and the Cannonball Express.
Okay. Yep.
The whole reason I started listening to music was because of that ride. When I went on that ride for the first time, I was 8 years old, 1993, and a girl that I had a crush on from camp went with me, and the very first song that we heard was Paradise City by Guns N' Roses. And that's why I've always said that Guns N' Roses is the reason I started listening to music.
It's a good one.
It's a good reason.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, they only played Beatles music on that. And it went along with
the name
Magical Mystery Tour.
Oh, it only makes sense.
It was like a Beatles.
Yeah.
Which all they played when I was a kid.
And I didn't understand that reference until I was actually in middle school and learned more about the Beatles in music class.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool that they kind of put that musical spin on the name of the ride.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I have a long history with that park.
That's so funny.
So I grew up less than a mile from the Double H.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when I was a kid, that was Hidden Valley.
Yep.
And they had a little ski slope in the back, downhill skiing, so you could go downhill skiing there for the day.
Really?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. They still have the hill that you can ski up and down because Double H actually runs a ski program every winter. And God knows, being in upstate New York, they have every opportunity to run a winter program.
You don't capitalize on something winter themed up here. You're doing
Yeah.
What disappointed me as far as Double H goes is this is the first year, because of everything going on, this is the first year that they weren't able to accept kids for the summer. And that crushed me, because it's the 17th or 18th year, because in 2023 will be 30 years since they were open to kids. It was founded in 92, but they didn't start taking kids until 93. So when they do an anniversary, they usually base it back on 1992, but it's like, you guys didn't really open until 93. Right. So I never understood why they did that, but seeing them have to make the announcement that they couldn't accept kids this year, at least not on property, because they're doing a cyber camp thing, which I think is really cool. But just seeing that they wouldn't be able to have kids on property, it was just heartbreaking. Just because of the environment that those kids get to be exposed to when they're up there is something that you don't see anywhere else.
Sure.
And it's remarkable. So
yeah, I walked, me and my best friend went for a walk up there about a month ago. Just walk around the lakes up there. And, saw that there was nobody there. I mean, I figured it, but to see it that empty is kind of
me and a buddy of mine, because I do a lot of I go to a lot of Comic-Cons now. Me and a buddy of mine who's an illustrator are working on our first comic book that is based on Double H.
Really?
That's awesome.
And we're actually keeping the whole Double H theme as far as using the two H's, because the comic book itself is called The Hearts of Hadley, and so it pays tribute to the camp and it pays tribute to the location.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Once we're actually off stream, I'll send you some of the artwork that we created. We actually had to stop because my illustrator decided to pursue schooling so that he had some sort of skill under his belt that he could make money off of, because doing all of the illustrating wasn't really netting him a lot of income.
Sure. I can understand that. I know all about having a day job to support your artistic habit.
Yeah. And that's actually something I was curious about, because when you guys were performing exclusively in upstate New York, you obviously had day jobs as well, because the majority of your performances were at night. Mm-hmm. Has that changed now that you're in New Orleans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was doing well. I mean, I did a lot of different things. I worked at a dentist's office once. I worked at a bank for a while. And then while I was at the bank, I decided to go to hair school because, again, I was like, I got to do something, because playing on the weekends being a weekend warrior. It's hard, but you have to have something to support that, because when performing is kind of what you're most happiest doing, unfortunately, it's hard to make a living at it if in certain areas, especially in upstate New York. So I was doing hair, and I did hair for about 8 or 9 years. I was doing hair and performing on the weekends. And, at about like the last, I will say, year or so of it, I was burnt out. I was so tired. I mean, I never had a voice because, I was talking all day and then I'd be singing on the weekends. So I couldn't give all of myself because I was, burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah. And I think when you're a performer, I think that you naturally have at least some level of an entrepreneurial spirit, and entrepreneurs generally burn the candle at both ends because they have a drive to succeed in almost everything they do.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, all the musicians that I know up here, they all, they all do something during the day. A majority of them do something during the day. And then when we moved, we made the decision to move to New Orleans, and we did it. And then both of us, we got jobs like that, and we actually wound up in the same band, which is great. It was nice that I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have to do anything other than this. I could just do this and make a living.
Yeah.
It was great.
I've been fortunate since 2003, early 2003. I got divorced for the first time, and at that point,
happens.
And at that point, I was like, well, I don't have anybody else relying on me. So I had worked at I had a couple of day jobs that didn't necessarily enjoy at all. So at that point, I was like, well, I don't have anybody else to support. I don't have to worry about, insurance or, anything. I was like, I can really just work on kind of becoming a full-time musician. And I took every gig I could find. If there was an open mic on a Tuesday night that paid $50, I'd host it. If there was, whatever gig I could get. And then I started working at a guitar store. And that was, kind of a perfect day job for a musician. And then it just, was able to focus just on music. So since 2003, everything I've done has been music related.
What sort of to be in the sort of industry, I would guess, for the best word, to be in the sort of industry or line of work that you're in, what sort of, or what level of discipline do you have to actually have it lead to something where it's lucrative for you before you can start enjoying it? Or are you able to enjoy it while you're developing that discipline?
I mean, do you mean like enjoying like downtime, or? Well,
no, because a lot of people say, and I mean, I know that artists don't do this because of, the whole starving artist, concept, but a lot of people say they're going into a certain line of work because of the money that they will make. But when you're developing a craft, like, being able to sing or, play an instrument, you have to, or it's something obviously that you have to enjoy, but you also have to be, oh,
sorry, my nephew's texting me.
You also have to have a certain level of discipline to stick with it. So I'm curious, how do you balance, enjoying it while developing that discipline? Because I know that there are a lot of people that have tried to balance the two and just got completely worn out and just given up.
It can be hard.
Yeah. I think
you definitely.
I've heard like there was a pretty great quote. Somebody said, I don't remember where I heard it, but like it was talking about making the choice to be a musician. Like and somebody said, if you have to make the choice to be a musician, then don't do it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I never even thought about it that way.
You are or you aren't.
That's true. And
so I always enjoy music and playing music and practicing and creating or learning parts. It's all there's sometimes I like different aspects more than others. There's always but it's always the process is always enjoyable. Probably also because I didn't really become a professional musician until I was almost 30. So I remember, working jobs that I hated, and I washed dishes. I've been a fry cook. I've been yelled at by corporate America. I've been, worked retail. Like I've done, jobs that are terrible. So anytime that even remotely, I'll be like, oh, I don't want to play this particular song. It's like, well, it's certainly a lot better than washing dishes. So,
yeah. As far as what led you to play the style of music that you play, like, were there bands that you grew up with that ultimately led to the style of music that you knew you wanted to play?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. I mean, when I was real little, like my brother's 11 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm, like just learning to walk, he's listening to Kiss,
Mm-hmm.
Cheap Trick, that type stuff. So that was always kind of, that's probably where the thing that got me going. But it was, I loved it. I just fell in love with music and everyone's music. My mom would listen to Elvis. I'd listen to that. My sister listened to ABBA. My dad listened to Johnny Cash.
Mm-hmm.
So I, enjoyed all that. And at that point, you start, you're in school and you start to hear music from your friends. So I guess I started, my real passion was like hard rock stuff, but eventually I kind of realized like I kind of want to be like more like Baskin Robbins guitar player, whereas like, I would love to be able to play, a bunch of different styles, especially when I got the job with Jim.
Mm-hmm.
I'd seen other Elvis impersonators before, and I'd seen guitar players do what things that I thought were ridiculous. Like they'd be like, he's doing, whatever Elvis song, Suspicious Minds or something. Look over a guitar player, he's finger tapping like Eddie Van Halen. It's like that's so when I got the job just as a sub, I decided I really wanted to learn that Elvis stuff the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And that opened a lot of doors for, so that's really my thing, is to be able to really fit into whatever situation I go into.
Yeah.
Now, I would say, at least from me witnessing the two of you performing independently of one another, my recollection, Mike, with you performing was obviously being with Jim, so you would often repetitively play the same things over and over again. Whereas when I was of drinking age and I was out and I was able to see Amelia play, the set list, it varied from time to time. So there was definitely some variety. Can you explain to me from both of your perspectives, the difference between, at least from your opinion, the difference between having to repetitively play the same stuff over and over again versus being able to switch it up? Like, do you get tired of certain songs?
Oh, sure. I mean, the thing is, though, that's kind of the name of the game,
Mm-hmm.
You have to do, when you're in a band like the band we're in now, or like, any band that either of us have been in the past, you're catering to the audience and what they want to hear. And, with like an Elvis show, like obviously you have to do the staples. So that way, Elvis fans of all ages can appreciate and, and enjoy the show. And then, we're the situation that we're in now, whereas like, before we had like a very specific set list. These are the songs that we do. If you request something and we don't know it, we're not doing it. The situation that we're in now is, it's a totally different ball game where someone requests it, we'll figure it out.
We do the point where we'll be like, we're all on in-ear monitors.
Yeah.
song we don't know. While we're doing another song, all of a sudden our band leader will play the song that we're going to do next in our ears, and we have to sort of figure out how to play that song while we're playing the previous song, or while there's like a little bit of a break, and at least be able to hit like the major points to pull it off.
And as long as one of the singers, because there's a bunch of us, like we're in a band now that's 11 people, and there's of us up front, 7 of us up front.
Yeah.
So out of all those people, there's got to be someone who kind of knows. So, you know, and at the club that we're the house band at, we're only allowed 8 people on stage just because it's a smaller stage. So we all rotate. So we kind of have to learn each other's material, and we kind of, you know, up on what's kind of new and hip, which is not really my forte, but you know, that of course you have to do it. So, you know, I mean, people will come up, and I remember like when Old Town Road was like the big song. And I remember we would get, because when you're playing on Bourbon Street, it's just like a constant like revolving door of people. And even Old Town Road, like I can't tell you how many times I've sung I Want to Dance with Somebody in one night. You know, come up, they throw $20 in the bucket, and they say, I want to dance with somebody. And you go, okay, I've already sung it 4 times. They'll do it again. You know, that's just the nature of what it is. It's such a different ball game. And you do get sick with those songs after you sing them a bunch of times a night.
Like a song like Old Town Road, which was so big for the, you know, whatever, that couple of months. I mean, we were doing it 3-4 times a night.
Yeah. My first episode of this series, I ended up being able to have a discussion with Mike and Ian from Blacktooth Grin from Amsterdam up there. And they were talking about like just having to really prepare themselves for certain songs, and being able to figure out if they could actually pull it off. The one thing I've always wondered about, being that Guns N' Roses was the reason I started listening to music, and Amelia, you could probably speak to this. Why is it that when I hear people covering any Guns N' Roses tune, it's primarily female vocalists? Why is there no male vocalist that has ever been able to properly pull off Axl Rose's voice, short of maybe Miles Kennedy?
That is a very specific voice. It is. And even for females, I mean, it's incredibly high, and it hangs up super high for a long time. I mean, honestly, I'll be completely honest with you. I have never performed that song. We have a guy in our band now who can do that stuff and sound the first time I heard him do it, I was like, I've never heard anything like it in my life. So, I mean, but the thing is, like, he's the only one that I know that can do that song. It's stuff like that. I mean,
and he's really like if we do Shook Me All Night Long, he sounds like Brian Johnson.
Yeah.
If we do.
I mean, he is I would say like a metal guy, but his specialty is like 80s. He can do all that super high stuff. But the thing is, like, that's just, it's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard. And the other thing too, and I'm not trying to knock anybody live, because certainly I've had my nights where like I can barely sing. You know, you watch a lot of these guys live and what they can do, and this goes back to like, you know, record companies wanting you to be a certain thing. A lot of these guys, they have a hard time doing it live. Sure. And rightly so. That stuff is ridiculous to sing. Ridiculous. So, you know, I think, you know, because it is so ridiculous, that's why a lot of females do it, because naturally most of us have higher voices.
And actually I thought, and maybe I'm wrong because it's been so many years since I've seen you play, I actually thought that there were a few times that I heard you cover Guns N' Roses, but maybe not. I'm not sure.
No, I did Journey. I did some Boston stuff, Bon Jovi, you know, but I don't know why we never did
maybe I'm mixing it up with Bon Jovi, because at least decade wise it was in the same vein.
Yeah.
But I think the only other person that I heard cover Guns N' Roses properly was Seneca from Street Talk.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Like literally, I've always wanted to hear a guy cover it, but as far as doing it properly, I've only heard females be able to, and it shocked me. And it's like, if a guy can get up to that range, why can't another guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Vocal ranges, there are so many, there are several different vocal ranges, and everybody's, individual sits in, a different spectrum as far as like, how low and how high you can go. And, obviously like Axl Rose is what we would consider a tenor. So like the highest of male voices, and, from there, tenor, alto, mezzo soprano, which is what I classify as, and then soprano, which is your highest. So it's easier for females to do it than most guys, because most guys, I would argue to say, a lot of guys probably sit in like the baritone range, which is under tenor. So, I mean, and that it's just, it's like I said, it's really a difficult thing for men to do, especially like that, and to sound like him too, because Axl Rose has a very, very unique tone and a very unique technique. So it's very, very special.
Yeah. I feel like our singer Dave, who does the, all that stuff. I think he's very tenacious too, as far as like, the work he puts into sounding like, because I mean, and the other thing too is that he just does everything he does, he goes all in on. So like the commitment
level.
Right. The other night, Country Grammar, and he
sounded like Nelly. It was unbelievable. I was like, this guy could do anything.
He's not reading lyrics. He learns all the lyrics, and I mean, there's a lot of words in Country Grammar.
Yeah, his work ethic is probably unlike. I mean, anyone that's in our band has like a very strong work ethic.
The whole band.
Yeah, we're all really dedicated to, I mean, it's a big show that we put on. And
we get a lot of practice, because like when we're on Bourbon Street, we're on Bourbon Street 5 nights a week, and then we do private weddings and stuff on weekends. So like there would be periods where I'd go 2 months without a day off. So you get really good play with people.
And what someone's about to do, like you can tell, and you can also tell, like we also know, like oh, he's not going to be, like that's better suited for him, or this is better suited for her. This is her niche, like we, so it's, so when you spend that much time together, you just know, you know what other people can do.
Individually, like where would you each say your comfort zone is as far as your range versus where you're willing to go? Like, are you like where you're willing to push yourself to see what you're capable of?
Yeah. Well, I would say as far as like the stuff I'm comfortable singing, or the stuff I love to sing, I mean, I grew up on soul music and funk and, R&B. I grew up on all that. So anything that's funky, I'm like, hey, give me it. I love that kind of stuff. Like I grew up listening to bands like Tower of Power and Earth, Wind and Fire. And I mean, but, and then I would hear, obviously, because my parents having a band, I heard all kinds of, singers that could sing like way up in the rafters. And so, there's, I like, obviously in our band that we're in, like I have to be able to sing country music. I have to be able to sing pop music. I have to be able to sing soul music. But as far as like the stuff I'm really comfortable singing, like singers, like, I mean, I love singing Whitney Houston stuff. That's a lot of fun. It's challenging, but it's fun.
Yeah.
I also really love the freedom of singing. I don't get to do it very often, but like Janis Joplin, because there is soul that is there, but it's also kind of gritty, which is kind of where I naturally sit. I I don't know. I mean, challenge to me, or anything that I'm not super comfortable doing is a challenge, and I will accept that challenge. But as far as, stuff that I don't know, I like to sing a lot of different kind of stuff, but if it's in the soul, if it has any kind of soul in it, that's where I'm super comfortable.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really sing anymore, so
that's true.
There's, 7.
We sing one song together.
Yeah.
In the band.
I'll sing something occasionally when we're, if we're at the club, if there's a request for.
Oh, you sing The Police?
Yeah, there's a request for something, like maybe
Yeah.
knows, and I think I can, fake my way through it. But there's 7 people singing. Like, I mean, really, if you think about it, Ryan sings.
Yeah, Ryan does sing. Mark
Ken,
sings.
Like everybody in the band sings.
Ken sings.
So
yeah.
There's no real reason for me to.
Yeah, we all sing.
Yeah. So.
I don't know why, and maybe this is just me being, the music brain that I am, but I think it would be cool to see the two of you post a video of you singing Islands in the Stream.
I want to do the song so bad. So bad. I love Dolly Parton.
Because, Mike, I think obviously you could pull off the Kenny Rogers part. Like, I think that you have the depth in your voice where you can do it. I think it'd be awesome. I would say within maybe a week, I want to see it. Even if it's, just raw.
I'll probably have to put on a fake beard. Do it real authentic.
I think I got some blonde wigs downstairs. I could make that happen. Blonde wigs and rhinestones. I'm all about it. Challenge accepted.
I think that'd be funny. I think it would be that's something you guys could do on YouTube. Like you could post that kind of stuff. I think that'd be awesome.
That's so funny. We've talked about doing that song before too. We've talked about maybe, I don't know, a few months back we said, we should do Islands in the Stream. That'd be fun.
Yeah. What would you say if you had to describe your relationship personally and professionally with music, like your relationship with music, or how would you describe it for both of you?
Complicated.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's actually a valid thing, because I don't think that I think art is so complex in and of itself that I think it has to be complicated, because there's nothing simple about art, because it's all individual interpretation and experience.
Yeah. Well, I think as artists, we have the thing that we all have visions, right? So as artists, we all have, and creative people, we all have a vision of what we think, like what we are and what we like to do. And then, when it comes to performing, 9 times out of 10, you don't get to be that. You don't get to do that. And you just kind of have to accept it. And some days are better than others. Some days you're like, I really want to sing this song. Why can't I sing it? And then other days you're just like, hey man, this is my job. And, so you kind of get these feelings in peaks and valleys where, some days you're like, this is great. I love everything we did tonight. It was so much fun. And then there's one night where you're just like, I wanted to sing that song so bad and it didn't get called, or nobody requested it, or yeah. So it's complicated. And again, like the things that you really like things that you like to listen to around the house that maybe nobody else knows. You're like, I would love to sing this song, or I'd love to do this song, but nobody knows it. So there's no point in doing it.
For me, I compartmentalize things. So I'll say
smart.
I don't look at our what we do as artistic at all. It's if I did, I think it would drive me insane. Because if you're like, okay, well, you got to play Sweet Child of Mine, and then you got to play, Uptown Funk. Like I can't do that. Like I'm not. That's not art.
No,
it's not art. It's recreating somebody else's art. And there is a challenge in doing that. There's a challenge in doing it, authentically. There's a challenge in, doing it with energy. And I think I can look at that as the job, And so if I don't really think of it as music. I'm just recreating something else, and that keeps it so that my relationship with music and being creative and doing stuff on my own or whatever, then that it doesn't sully that. It still keeps, like, I get like when we get done playing for a night, like, you know, playing 5 hours of cover tunes or whatever.
Yeah.
When I'm driving home, I can listen to music on the way home because I don't feel like what I just did was music. It was recreating something. So I don't get tired of music.
That's good, because I would think that, you know, there was a thing that I talked about in a previous episode with somebody where I had watched a video where it was a list of, I think, 10 artists who eventually hated the song that they became, or one of the songs that they became known for. And there was one, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, even though I just looked it up like 10 minutes before we went on stream. It was a song by Queen that Freddie had written, and Brian hated it.
Don't Stop Me.
Yes. Wow. I'm
endless musical knowledge. It's unbelievable. The vault that is up here is just it's unprecedented. People can't stand being around me because I can relate anything that is said to a music reference. People can't stand being around me for that reason. Like, I literally say I have a music brain. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
But I think that helps me, because especially mentally and emotionally, I think that actually helps me, because if there's something that is kind of affecting me, I can relate it to something, and it helps me rationalize it or figure it out a little bit better.
Sure.
Because it's a lyric from a song that obviously I didn't write, so I can relate it, or it helps me understand that somebody else has identified with the same thing I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's the great thing about music, is that there's kind of something for everybody, because, you know, we're all here, you know, we're all like spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're all going through, you know, we all go through similar things. It might not be, you know, obviously like the same situation, but the same type of emotional experience. And, you know, it's great when artists write about that, because then they know, well, at least, you know, in my mind, like, there's someone out there that relate to this and can hear this. And it, you know, sometimes it just helps to know, you know, whether it's a happy thing or a sad thing, it helps to know that someone else has gone through something very similar.
Sure. Or even just your interpretation, even if it's not the right one, like, it's what you take away from it that's, you know, what's important.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're getting the message of the song completely wrong from what the songwriter wanted, it's just,
yeah.
That's actually something I wanted to ask you guys. I try not to ask the same questions in each episode, but being that you brought that up, I'm curious what you guys think. Before I even did the first episode, I was reading an article where Serge Tankian from System of a Down was criticizing one of his bandmates, because he said that it pissed him off that this bandmate had the political views that he did, but still felt comfortable singing certain songs by the band. And it's like, you can understand the reason why something is written, but you can also relate to it in your own way.
Sure.
And, you know, in your opinion, what are your thoughts on an artist kind of forcing the listener to interpret the song for the reason that they wrote it, versus allowing them to interpret it in their own way?
Well, I think that kind of goes back to what we were just talking about as far as like, doing things and not, what do I want to say? Like doing songs and like, you're just like, this is the job, you know? So sure, you might not relate with it anymore. Sure. There might be parts of it that you don't agree with anymore, but again, like it's out there and somebody can relate to it. Mm-hmm. And I think I don't know. I think that as a musician and as a performer, there is a bit of, this is kind of a crude way to put it, but like fake it till you make it kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. So like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a band, do a song and it's like their last song of the night, like go like to concerts, and you see them whip through this song. They play it at 100 miles an hour just to get it over with. And you're like, but I love all of your music, but that's the reason I came here, because I love that song. And you just kind of played it almost carelessly, like you didn't. And I think that's the one thing that, I feel like as a performer, that no matter how tired I am of a song or how much I don't relate to it or I don't relate to it anymore, there's mm-hmm. something there that loves this song, and I'm going to act like I love it, and I'm going to perform it like I love it. And that's the job, and I don't know what you're going to say.
Well, as far as like I know exactly what you're talking about, the System of a Down thing.
Yeah, I don't know the situation.
And
so
it's
Serge is a dick. That's basically what it is.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think it's probably, I think they have completely opposite political views, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lesson you can learn in that they have completely differing political views, mm-hmm. yet they're able to coexist in the same band. Mm-hmm. Like, again, it's a lot of like compartmentalizing. So like John's, he plays the drums.
Yeah.
System, like that's his contribution to the art of System of a Down. Mm-hmm. And he's still able to have his own political views and agenda and the way he looks at things, and whether anybody else in that band agrees or disagrees doesn't really matter, mm-hmm. because they're able to coexist, and they're able to they haven't created art in
I know
a long time, but the fact that they're able to coexist, and that's what life is really about. And it's what has kind of been lost recently, is that there's no people seem to be not as into the idea of being able to coexist.
Yeah. I think what pissed me off about it was the fact that Serge said it in an interview where it was just him. He didn't, it wasn't in the context of the band being with him. So it's not like John could have been there to, respond to him. I think that's what pissed me off about it, because I have a lot of respect for Serge, and I have a lot of respect for the band, because I do enjoy their music. I might not connect to it in the way that it's meant to be connected with, mm-hmm. but I enjoy listening to it. And but so for him, especially as the head of the band, to say that in a solo interview when John's not there to defend himself, I think that's what pissed me off. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that, artists feel the comfort of speaking so freely. I just wish that they wouldn't speak so freely about somebody in a negative way unless that person is able to provide a response.
Right. And I mean, that's, there's a little bit of I would say clickbaitiness about it too.
Oh, yeah.
Like we're gonna, that's, and I'm sure a little of that is on Serge's side and a little bit on the, blabbermouth or whatever.
Yeah.
It came from. It's, people have opinions, and that goes back to, the Beatles, you know, or where there's infighting and somehow it gets blown up into, and it's probably more blown up by media than it is between those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it probably seems more inflammatory.
Yeah.
To the outsider than it does to those guys. I'm sure they probably bicker all the time.
Yeah.
Are they brother-in-laws?
I think they are actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're like related outside of the band anyway. So I'm sure, you know, like, but again, their coexistence, I think, is the important lesson to take away from any of that. No matter what side of the fence you fall on, they're able to coexist and you know, maybe someday make new music.
Yeah. Now, have they been, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, have they been out of the scene as long as Tool has? Because I know Tool finally just released new music, or maybe
it's got to be pretty close to that.
Tool
just takes forever to work on music.
Yeah.
Whereas System, it is, you know, there is a reason why they're not making music.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's because they're kind of at an impasse between band members.
Yeah.
Not politically, just, you know.
Right. As far as music connecting with people, like with the way that you guys connect with, because obviously, you know, you do cover music, so you're singing the songs as a fan of the songs, but you're also dealing with a bunch of drunkards who are you know, enjoying the song. And I think the thing that always pissed me off, especially in the context of, you know, the bands that I saw while I was out in the bars, I thought that it was kind of bands downplaying themselves when they say the drunker you are, the better we sound. And I think that really diminishes the ability that the musicians and the singer has. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because as far as you're concerned, Amelia, I don't think I ever heard you say that, which I don't know if you ever did, but I don't think I ever heard you say that. So I'm curious, with that statement, what are your thoughts on that when a cover band or even a mainstream band singing their own stuff? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I have said it. And to me, a reason I said it is because I find it just comical.
Oh, well, yeah. And
not only that, as an artist that plays in a bar scene, it's kind of like it's like a big circle. Yeah. So like you're playing, they're drinking, the bar's making money. And if you say, hey, the more you drink, the better we sound, you go to the bar and they spend money, the bar makes money, and you come back. So it's like, to me, that's what it is. You know, my father was in a band where the lead singer said that all the time. I mean, for him, it was like one of his many spiel lines, and he would like make it all rhyme. Like he had a way to, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it rhymed, and it was, people were like, ha ha ha. You know, people thought it was funny and you know, cheeky, whatever you want to say. I mean, I guess you can look at it and say that you are kind of like downplaying what you're doing. But the way I see it is just, sorry to throw this out there and spill the beans, but it's a ploy to make the bar more money. So
I mean, that makes perfect sense. But I guess for me, it always just felt like you know, when a singer would say that, it would cheapen the experience. And maybe that's because I love music as much as I do. Um, it just felt like it cheapened the experience, and it kind of said to me, for some reason, it said to me that the singer doesn't have as high standards for themselves as maybe they should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I go deep with thoughts, and maybe that's why I interpret it that way.
Yeah, to me, it's, I mean, my interpretation of it, because I don't say it often. I think I could probably count on my one hand how many times I've said it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it was just about getting people back to the bar so they would spend more money and so they have us back. That's because it's, I mean, really, it is a business. Like you can be the greatest band in the world, and if no one's coming to see you, places aren't going to have you back because you're not making them money. So that's, I mean, there have been bands like where I'm like, well, I don't need to say that because this place is packed. I don't need to tell them to go buy more drinks because they already are.
Right.
Especially on Bourbon Street. I mean, it's Bourbon Street, and the bar that we play in, like, we're the house band, and they love us and they're not getting rid of us anytime soon. And we've done nights in there where there have been, a sea of people, and you go on break and you try to go back to that break room, you're not getting back there. And there have been nights where there's 5 people in there and half of them are the staff, so
Mm-hmm.
It's way more packed than again, pre current situation.
Yeah.
And
normally it's it's pretty packed, and a fair amount of drunk people, as it were.
Explain to me, obviously, because there are a lot of us who haven't had the chance, before or during COVID, we just have never had the chance. Explain, from your perspective, the difference in environment, and the difference in feeling between playing somewhere in upstate New York in a podunk town versus playing in one of the most recognizable music places on the planet.
Well, first off, you need to go. Well, you have to go at some point in your life. It doesn't matter when, you have to go. There's nothing like it. To me, the difference, there are differences and there aren't. It's kind of no different than playing any other bar that you play, around here. It's just, way more well known. So you have nights here or anywhere that's, smaller, or anywhere that doesn't have an iconic strip where it's just bar, where, there are nights where you're it happens on Bourbon Street too, where you're it's cold out tonight. I wonder if anyone's going to come out. Right. And same thing happens on Bourbon Street. We had a night where, my parents came to visit. Oh. It was 20 degrees in New Orleans. 20. My parents were the only 2 people in the bar besides the staff.
Well, we were talking off stream. That's a heat wave to us.
Yeah, I mean, during the winter months, you're like, oh, it's 20 degrees. It's nice out.
20 degrees felt cold.
It was freezing. So really, I mean, I guess there are aspects of it a lot of aspects of it that are really the same. It's just the notoriety or the popularity of that is Bourbon Street. That
I think there are other things too. Obviously, if you're playing, Sandy's, I'm not playing Sandy's anymore. You're playing for people that live in the Falls area. Whereas when you're playing on Bourbon Street, you're playing for people
all over the world.
Canadians, Australians,
England, British,
people from Kansas, people from New York City. It's a lot of
a lot of different cultures. It's a melting pot.
And and almost playing to no one who lives in New Orleans.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, because people in who live in New Orleans don't go out on Bourbon Street.
No.
It's only
We have probably
Right.
a handful of people that are
Yeah.
locals that come out, and but I mean a handful.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the grand
You're
scheme
playing.
of things, you're playing for tourists.
which is how we can end up playing at the same place 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, if you couldn't do that in too many other places. You
Yeah.
couldn't do that in Glens Falls because you could have the Rolling Stones playing at, you know, Sandy's 5 nights a week, and eventually they'd stop drawing.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I saw them last night.
And the cool thing about that too, being like a house band to some place, is that people do come in, you know, from wherever they come from, and you know, they'll leave and then they'll make another vacation back to New Orleans, and they'll come back and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you guys are here. We loved you last time we were here."
To the point where people have been coming to see that band since before we were members.
Yeah.
Because that band existed, what's it, 8, 9 years old?
Yeah.
So we've only been in it for
2 years almost. Not even
2 years.
Year and a half.
People have been coming to see that band for a long
for
time.
ages. Yeah.
And then before that, they were also in other bands. And you know,
the leader of our band played on a cruise ship for a long time, and he's people that will wander in and be like, "You were that guy on that cruise ship." We played a party. We played a party for some. Oh my gosh, I can't remember who it was, but we played a party with somebody, and you know, someone came up to me and they said, "Are you the singer in the Refrigerators?" And I was like, "Yes." How? Like, it was just, you know, it's just such a small world, especially when you're a performer. But yeah, it's really interesting to see how many people really kind of like revolve through New Orleans. It's such a destination for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What is the difference from a performer's perspective? What is the difference between your relationship with the crowd in, say, you know, upstate New York versus New Orleans? Because you, like you just said, you don't really see a lot of the same people on Bourbon Street because it's what I guess would be colloquially called a tourist trap almost. And I know that we had our share of those in upstate New York because Lake George was one. But you know, what is the difference between the relationship you have? Because obviously that's how I developed a relationship with the two of you, was because, you know, we were in such close proximity to each other that we always ran into each other at some point. So I'm curious what the difference in relationship is, kind of from your own perspective.
I would almost say there's almost no difference.
No?
Really. No, I don't think so, because, you know, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of the same, considering, you know, you do have kind of like a revolving door of people coming in and out, just on a bigger scale. So you have more people coming in and out. And then, you know, the people that do come back, you do, you know, get a relationship with, and, you know, like, how was your flight? You know, how are the kids? You know, like, it's, you know, so it's very much the same. It's just on a different scale.
Yeah.
I would. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's very much the same. Same kind of. For me, it feels the same, because you know, without doing a whole lot of interacting with people, because I mean, you know, just guitar player standing in the back. It's about the same kind of relationship. Like sometimes people come up and say, you know that they enjoy it. Sometimes guitar players look at me like, "What are you playing through? What's that you've got?" So it's very much the same, just a little, just more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of, and I don't know why Nirvana just popped into my head, but when you have somebody like Kurt Cobain, who, when you would read about him, it's not the type of person that you saw live, because he sang with such passion, but he also, when people would write about him, they would say how much of an introvert he was and how much it made him uncomfortable to be around people. So whether it's either one of you specifically or somebody that you know, do you know anybody that has that sort of frame of mind where they like being a performer, but they're really uncomfortable being around people for the most part. Because that dynamic always that dynamic always kind of fascinated me, and maybe that's the wrong word, but it puzzled me because it's like, and I guess, they say, you leave it all on stage sort of thing, but it always blew my mind that they're like, they seem so interactive while they're on stage, and yet they're this very, very timid, and I'm not saying you're timid by any means, because you're very, approachable and outgoing, but they're this very timid and private person.
Yeah. I mean, I could certainly relate with that. I'm definitely like that. Maybe not like when I get into the audience, because I also have the understanding that on stage and off stage, whatever it is, the bar is my stage. So, if I'm walking around and like, all I want to do is like go in the back and, have a snack before I have to go back on stage, or like take a minute to just not talk, like I'm tired. And I don't like, I just want to like, and just not for a little bit and just kind of meditate.
Yeah.
If people stop me when I'm on my way, I stop, I talk to them, look them in the eye, and they're there watching you. They're doing you a favor. So for me, it's the whole time you have to be on. And then I know, like walking to the car after a gig, still have to be on, because you don't know who you're going to run into walking down the street to your car. Someone could be like, "Oh my God, we saw you. You were our favorite band." Da, 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 da. And then, it's really like when I get home, like, just like, when I have days off, nights off, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk to people. And it's not that I want to be antisocial. It's just like, when you're on that whole time, you need time to decompress and to, not for a little while. And I don't know, big crowds for me have never really been a favorite.
Yeah.
And I don't really know many performers personally that love that. Like love, they love performing and they love what they do, and they can't imagine doing anything else but like going out in a big group of people. Like, it's just not it's not something that a lot of them like to do. And I think it's almost like maybe it's some of them have developed that over time. You just do for so long, it just kind of, I don't want to say it gets old, because that's certainly not the case. It's just, you're putting out a lot of energy. What people don't realize is that it's a lot. It's a lot up here, a lot right here. It's just constant interaction. I mean, not a lot of people experience that, so they don't understand it. It's tiring.
Yeah.
Not to say that we don't appreciate it, because that's certainly not the case.
Right.
A lot of energy that you put out.
Yeah.
I get overwhelmed once a group gets over like 5 people. At that point, I'm kind of like start kind of like check out, because it's just, for me, it's like sensory overload, like people talking, and I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Thing. So I would almost, being on stage, really.
Yeah. With doing, like, I guess, do you guys write your own music? Like, are there originals that you guys have written? Because the one thing I'm curious of, do you ever perform songs that are so emotionally close to you that they're extremely emotionally taxing, like ones that kind of really get to the core of who you are, and after performing them, it just takes that much out of you mentally and emotionally?
I will say that I think that it kind of all depends. It depends on what, for me personally, it depends on what I'm going through and what I'm feeling, and could be anything. And a song will come up, and you like catch you kind of catch yourself. Like, a lot of the time for performers, and I think that a lot of us kind of go on autopilot a lot of the time. But there are certain songs, like, where certain times of my life, I found it hard to perform them, because they touch me in a way that nobody really realizes at that moment. I saw a really interesting, well, I guess it's not really interesting. It was just a video of the other day of Celine Dion singing All by Myself, and it was right after her husband passed away. And she could barely get through it. She could barely get through it. And I even get choked up thinking about it because, like we've all kind of been there. And that's really like the power of music, is that not even just as performers, just like as people, like there are certain songs where like, even if you're not a performer, you're like, I can't listen to this song right now. I just can't, because it's going to put me in a place that I don't want to be in, or like, it's going to make me emotional. And, so yeah, there certainly have been times where, different things affect me differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as we've been doing some writing recently, but as far as doing anything original stuff in front of people, it's been a long time for me. I don't remember any particular times when I guess emotional connection to lyrics probably that I wrote when I was in my 20s. I didn't really have that. But I gotta say that there were a couple of times when I would, we had a small-ish following in New York, but there were a couple of times when I saw people singing lyrics that I had written, and I was like, a pretty wild feeling to see, like, wow, that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's got to be pretty surreal.
I can't imagine what it's like on a grand scale like that. I mean, I've seen like 2 people do it.
With everything that we're kind of facing socially right now, I think that one of the main reasons I actually started this series was because I felt like people were less and less interested in having conversations with each other. So I'm curious, when I was in middle school, I remember, it's going to make me sound like such a jackass, but I remember using like a Backstreet Boys or an NSYNC song to let a girl know how I felt about her.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I know that sounds absolutely stupid because I'm 35 now, and it's just
we've all done it. We've all done it. I don't care who you are. We've all done it.
But with everyone not being really willing to have conversations with each other because everybody's afraid of, disagreeing with each other, I think it's safe to say that recording artists, so to speak, or musicians, have a deeper relationship with emotion and spoken word. So I'm curious, how you guys look at the world around you and see people unwilling to have conversation, where you guys have such a deep connection to, spoken language, and you're wondering why the hell can't you just use a song to let that person know what you're feeling?
I don't think it's that people aren't willing to have conversations. I think the problem is more that people are too willing to voice their opinion. And I think in the age of social media, it's just so easy to say, this is what I believe, and I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
So I guess, I guess people, it's a combination of people not willing to have a conversation, and also the people feeling empowered to force their opinions down people's throats. I think you would be far less likely to see that kind of thing in person. People that know each other. So if I have one opinion, you have another opinion, and I've known you for whatever 13 years or 15 years, and if I say something online, if I post it online, and we get into like a argument online, it's not the same thing as if I was standing face to face with you and I said, my opinion. I think it's people are less willing to have a conversation online.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that and it's just too easy for things to get misconstrued. And I think people would be surprised to find out, the differences between people aren't actually that great.
Right.
I think, people fall in the middle of things a lot more than they think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, certainly art, any kind of art can help with that.
Mm-hmm.
But these are, I think social media has been a real detriment to society.
Yeah.
Just being able to, have your opinion and not be interested or want to learn anything about maybe what the other side might have to offer. And I mean that both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides seem to be not interested. And it's a divisive time. And I think social media is a big part of that.
Yeah, I think what happened was when we had MySpace was great. I think because it was called social networking back then.
Sure.
As soon as Facebook took over, it seemed like it became social media, and we had news outlets influencing the things that we thought. And I don't think we realized it until it was too late. I think when MySpace was a thing, we were just I think we were more interested in having conversations with people that we knew that we would never meet face to face, because we were more curious as to what was out there. Now with social media, it's just it's become a hellscape almost.
Mm-hmm.
I miss because I miss like being able to like customize your page and put the music on your page. And
I mean, that's what
that was great.
I put originals up on MySpace because that's what it was for.
Okay, but you have to admit, drama did start with MySpace when they allowed you to have your top 8. You can't.
Because God forbid you're like someone. Well, Tom took up one of those spaces. Tom.
You could move Tom out, but that's why I used to put bands in my top 8, just so if I was gonna piss if I was gonna piss one person off, I was gonna piss everybody off because they weren't in my top 8. So,
true. That was kind of like a stupid thing about my top 8. Well, don't make me do that. Don't make me do that, Tom.
Come on, Tom.
MySpace. I remember like I was probably one of the last people to make the jump from MySpace to Facebook. And I think I made a Facebook, and then all of a sudden I got this influx of friend requests, and I deleted it because I was like, oh, I don't want anything to do with this. And then all of my friends were like, you still use MySpace? I was like, yes. I guess I have to go to Facebook.
Well,
I never, it's so funny. I've never really been like a huge fan of Facebook. I don't know why. The reason why I had it for a long time was because, got family all over the country. And so to keep in touch with them. But I mean, to this day, I'm really bad about using it. So people will tag me in things, and I'm sorry, I don't see them because I don't look.
I'm not a social media person.
I'm big on Instagram. I love Instagram.
I like Instagram because of everything going. I'm sure you guys know the app TikTok.
I was really cool with TikTok for a while. Now I just see the same stuff over and over again. I mean, it's like dances. I'm like, I'm too old for that. I got cute dogs and cats. I'm that person.
You're only as old as you feel, and you're only slightly.
Feel old.
I think you're only slightly older than me. I think only by a few months, because I was born in January of '85. So
Yeah.
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 But I don't know. I for me, oddly enough, TikTok has actually helped as far as mental health, because the algorithm that they have programmed into TikTok has actually helped more videos come my way that are a lot better for my mental health. But because of the controversy right now with TikTok, Instagram decided to develop something similar on their platform, and I haven't tried it yet, but I've seen people doing it. It's pretty cool.
Is it real?
Yes.
Okay. I don't even know, I see it like, what is this? Isn't this is just kind of like,
it's literally only been around for, I think, a week and a half, maybe. But I like when there's competition like that, but I don't think that social media companies take enough responsibility for the impact they have on their users. And I don't necessarily think they need to control what their users are doing, but I think that they need to take responsibility and be like, okay, there are ways that we can mitigate these circumstances and really be more of a positive influence than what we are.
Well, I think that's one of the funny things that I see anyone talking about social media. It seems like they fall pretty much in two camps. It's like people that are don't want to see any more negative posts about
about whatever.
Yeah.
And the people that do them constantly.
Yeah.
Really no in between. You don't see somebody that posts something, it's like they're either posting pictures of their dogs or they're posting pictures of, whatever political meme suits their side.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see, at least for the limited time I go on, I don't see the person that's like, I'm political sometimes about that stuff. And then the rest of the time, I fried an egg today. Here's a picture of the egg.
Yeah. I remember when Instagram was starting to become big before Facebook actually bought it. There was this meme that went around the internet, and because it was around the time when we realized that people were getting so caught up in social media that they were kind of losing touch with the world around them, like the actual beauty of the world around them. There was a meme that was going around that said, "Don't forget to stop and Instagram the roses."
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, we see it all the time at like concerts or even like when we're playing, people have their phones out recording, and I'm like, just live in this moment. And I mean, I certainly have been guilty of that, but so for instance, we took a vacation. We went to Disney World last year, and I brought my phone with me, but I left it in the room because I was like, well, first off, I'm a 5-year-old at heart. So that's why they sell packages where you can have your photos taken for you. Like you just scan your little magic band and like someone could take a photo, and then so that way you're not sitting there like, oh, look, here's Mickey Mouse, and oh, here's this, and here's that. It's, like living in that moment. Same thing with concerts, like I know.
Concerts drive me nuts.
Yeah. I mean, like you're seeing whatever artist, like you're seeing, and I appreciate, and this might be controversial, but I appreciate the artists that has people like lock up their phones or whatever, because so for instance, I was supposed to go see Cher this past year. Cher was coming to Superdome, and I was so excited, but we wound up playing, so I couldn't go. And one of my girlfriends went, and I said, oh, let me know how it is. And she goes, oh, don't worry, I'll be posting pictures and videos. And I was like, great. I didn't see one photo. I didn't see one video. And at first I was kind of like, I'm kind of bummed. I want to see how Cher was. But then I was like, I don't know if she did make people like lock up their phones or whatever. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you would do that in a big capacity.
It's being done. It's when you enter the venue, it's being done. I haven't seen it firsthand, but I've heard stories.
Sure. So
Well,
I mean,
I
like
went
I can
to-
appreciate, like big artists like Cher or whoever, comedians, just like telling people like, I know a lot of people like to do it, but I think just coming from me personally as a performer, like, don't you want to like live in this moment? I mean, I remember like being a kid and like going to see a concert and like that feeling of adrenaline that you get when you see this person, like taking that away and like being able to put the person in the situation. So, you can, emotionally get invested in that performance. That I think it's good.
I'll like a 30-second video of something if I go see it. Like we saw, I went to see Toto and like I took like a 30-second video of Rosanna, and then that would be it's like okay, that's all I need to remind me like, oh, that's when I went to see Toto.
Or like when we went to go see Rob Zombie, he did 5 encores, and
wow,
a majority of the audience had left because they thought that the concert was over, and we had good seats, but then as soon as like I saw people getting up, I was like, let's go. And we like ran to the front. We were so close. I had every opportunity to take a video. Rob Zombie was right there.
Like sweating on you.
But I didn't, because I was like, I'm going to miss this moment if I take out my phone. And I remember like he even let people on stage, and he was like, if I see anyone taking a selfie, I'm going to knock your phone out of your hand. Sure enough, he like, someone did, and he was like, selfie, boom, and he like knocked their phone out of their hand. Cause like you're on stage with Rob Zombie living it.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, I just don't get it. Like if you're,
you pay all this money
and you're watching, watching it on your phone, like you can just watch on your phone in your living room.
Yeah. It's like look up from your phone and they're a lot bigger. It's like you're shrinking them down to watch them on your phone when they're like right there. The one band that I have seen where the singer absolutely will accost you completely in front of everybody when you have your phone out is David Draymond from Disturbed. It is hysterical to see that man go off on somebody. He actually was, I guess there was a show that he did where the barrier was close enough to the stage where he could still have that like physical contact with fans. Somebody was taking a video and they were close enough to the stage where all David did, he extended his leg and kicked the phone out of the person. Funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
And the other thing too is about that, just speaking, as a singer, like we're not 100% all the time. In fact, the times that we are 100% are probably fewer than the other times. So is someone taking out their phone and taking a video of you when you can barely squeak anything out? You're like, now it's out there for the entire world to see. Right. Now like take a video, you want to take a video of me at my best and you want to take a video of me at my worst. Negative word spreads a lot faster than positive. So people are I'm nobody's spreading any kind of like word about me singing on Bourbon Street. Believe me, I'm not worried about that. But like I can understand like bigger artists that might dodge a note because they don't have it that night, and then they get accosted for it. Like that. I don't think that that's right. We're human beings. We're human beings. We're not superheroes.
Right.
It's like let the artist concentrate on doing what they're gonna do. Like don't make them feel like like okay, this is gonna live on the internet in perpetuity.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, it might have been one of the last concerts I went to before the virus. I went to see. This is gonna make all of us feel old in a minute. I went to see Coolio, Vanilla Ice, Rob Bass, Snap, and TLC.
Yes, that's amazing.
it was the I Love the '90s tour,
Oh, I love that. Cool.
and I got to meet TLC, and I don't even know how to explain the fact that I could barely get 2 words out
Yeah.
when I was around them, because I was in such shock that I was actually, because they are the reason, and this goes back to me being at camp, they are the reason that I actually started understanding a lot of my friends that were at camp, because their song Waterfalls was about somebody who had HIV.
Mhm.
And being that Double H is a camp for kids with disabilities and terminal illnesses, that song actually helped me understand my friends who had HIV.
Mhm.
So they played a huge part with me growing up.
Sure.
And actually, I told T-Boz that, and I thought she was going to cry. But they were probably the warmest 2 individuals that I've ever met.
That's great.
And then out of nowhere, I didn't even see it coming, I ended up getting a picture with Coolio, because he ran through the entire crowd on the floor. He was just goofing around. He ran through the entire crowd, ended up in the VIP area where I was, and he put his arm around me, and whoever was with me at the time just quickly snapped a picture. Coolest shit I have ever seen.
So
Like,
cool.
Um,
Coolio, man.
yeah, and to hear the fact that he is the age that he is, but still has the energy that he has, it was mind blowing.
Yeah.
Hello, kitty cat.
Dottie.
Um,
Fun. Get out of here.
as far as, you know, looking at music in the sense of using it to help further a conversation, with the 2 of you, have you found that being musicians yourself, and being that, because of that, you have a deeper understanding of spoken language, does it help the 2 of you communicate better, being musicians and having a deeper connection with being able to verbalize things?
With each other or just in general?
Both.
Huh.
With each other, I mean, it's probably just part of our, our language.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
it
just helps, and I'm sure it helps in general.
Yeah, I would think so.
I think probably.
It's so funny because that's a very interesting question. I guess I never really thought about it that way, that, having a deeper connection with.
I guess just, I think anybody that is, appreciates art, and whatever art that is, being, literature or music or
painting
or sculpture.
Yeah.
I think if you have a understanding of art, I think it broadens your worldview.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably do communicate better and are more understanding and more, just a more worldly.
Yeah. I think of, couples like Kurt and Courtney, and they were both obviously singers. So, they were, I don't know that they were together when Kurt died. But it made me wonder, especially with everything mentally and emotionally that Kurt dealt with, it made me wonder if it helped or hindered their ability to communicate with each other. Because obviously with the type of music that Kurt wrote, it was very, like, there was some real deep meaning in those songs. And you look at somebody who marries a musician who isn't themselves in an artistic field in any way, and you don't see the relationship really working out. So to see 2 musicians, I always wondered if their understanding of, you know, being able to communicate helped them, you know, in their relationship, so to speak.
I think it probably varies for each couple, because I know as musicians or any kind of artist, there is a lot of passion there, and of passion can very easily, I think, passion can kind of overtake logic sometimes, I think.
Mhm.
So, you know, like, I mean, if we were to argue, which we never really do, but if we were to, and like he were to feel one way and I were to feel a different way about whatever the issue would be, I feel like, you know, both of us being very passionate people, and you know, I feel like it could work against us. And so with that passion, I think you kind of have to, in a relationship, I mean, like you have to understand that we're all we're all different.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, you have to understand that. And then, you know, not even just in like a relationship, like a, you know, like a marriage, like us, like, you know, even like in a band setting, when, you know, you feel different. I mean, we've seen it multiple times in our band, like, you know, someone feels one way and someone feels another way. And, you know, being passionate people, sometimes like you butt heads, and, you know, you have to make a conscious decision sometimes to just take a step back and go, okay, let me try to take the emotion out of it as best I can and look at this thing rationally. And sometimes it's hard when you're a passionate person.
Sure.
One of the reasons I bring it up is because I remember when we were growing up, obviously, with bands like Aerosmith, I had always heard that Sweet Emotions was written because Steven Tyler didn't like, I think, the woman that Joe Perry was with at the time. So he wrote that as a dig to her. That's what I don't know if it's true, but
Sure, that is.
it is.
I think so.
But it always, because of the way that especially musicians use words, it always made me wonder, like, how that affects the individual relationships outside the band and how that affects the members of the band. Because you're sitting there and you're writing a diss, like a diss track. I know it's not rap, but you're writing a diss song towards somebody that is in the life of a band member. And it's like, how the hell do you have the set of balls to do that?
And then it winds up being one of your biggest.
No shit.
There's a lot of emotion that we can dissect from that one.
Well, yeah, like Fleetwood Mac, right?
Oh my God, Fleetwood Mac is another one.
No doubt. I mean,
yeah.
Gwen Stefani had Tony Kanal singing songs that she wrote about him. Now, if that's not control, although I think Stevie Nicks ended up having Lindsey Buckingham singing songs about himself that she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, they both did that.
Stevie Nicks was like, I mean, he's kind of like the OG of that, as far as I am aware of. I mean, she's like, you're a jerk. Sing this about yourself. Go ahead. Oh, and it's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, man, that's serious. I mean, I know I've seen that meme go around 100 times, like being like, I wrote a song about my boyfriend, and Stevie Nicks like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Buckingham did that to her too.
He did that to her too. The two of them, they did it to each other.
Yeah.
That's the curse of being an artist.
And that's why they're not in a band together anymore.
Right. Yeah, because didn't they just fire Lindsey because he didn't want to partake in the tour schedule that they were developing, I think.
He didn't want to tour as long as they did, or something like
allegedly, that.
Allegedly.
I think there's probably a lot of behind the scenes there.
Yeah.
Allegedly, Stevie Nicks was like, it's either him or me.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, I mean, he had surgery, and like had surgery on his throat and then lost his voice.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it was. I think it
What
was
was
a heart. It was a heart thing, but they had to go in.
Oh, they damaged his vocal cords. That's what it was.
Oh,
So sad.
Well, the other thing is that these people are in their 70s. It's like
right. As far as modern music, do you see, like, I don't know how into modern music you are, but do you see any artists in the last 20 years that are timeless as compared to the artists that we grew up with? Like, do you see that being a thing anymore, or are we just in an era where we're going to constantly see flashes in the pan?
I think it's going to be fewer and far between as of right now. The only person that I could think of that is kind of timeless in a sense is, as far as singers are concerned, Adele is one of them. She's one that I don't really know that girl really relies on trends so much as, I mean, and the other thing about her is that, she puts out an album once every 5 years. So of course, like, everyone gets excited because she's not oversaturating the market too.
Right.
Bruno Mars might fall into that.
Oh yeah, Bruno Mars. I mean, when he comes out with something, it's like it's just like it's gold. He's unbelievable.
And it's real. And he also, he has so many influences in his stuff. It seems to.
It's almost like a Madonna in a sense. Like, he kind of like reinvents himself every time he comes out with something.
There's a reinvention, and there's a bit of nostalgia in his stuff.
Yeah.
He's
an incredible performer too.
And
like,
I
mean, the guy is a hard worker.
Yeah.
Worker. I know, like, when they were on tour, from what I don't know if you told me this, like, when they were on tour and they'd have a break, like they would have a day off. They didn't have a day off. They were rehearsing.
Yeah.
Someone told me that. I don't remember who.
Yeah, that dude works.
It's nice to see modern acts still having that level of work ethic, because I think it's really the only thing that's going to keep that art medium alive, is having that work ethic. Because obviously when all of us were growing up, you would hear about representatives from record labels going to different local venues to see local bands, and that's how they would find these acts to sign. Whereas now within the last 2 or 3 years, I heard that now record labels, the criteria that they have for whether they sign somebody is your social media following. It's like, what if you are a terrible artist and you suck and you can't sing your way out of a paper bag? Why are you even... See, that's another reason why I don't like social media.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is true too. Like, there's probably incredible artists that just aren't very social media savvy.
Yeah.
Right.
That you'll never hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, like, we were having this conversation not too long ago about how, record labels are eventually probably going to become obsolete because people can make studios, and we have one. Like, but you buy a computer and it's a studio, like, you don't even need to have like the huge board anymore and all this. Like, it's all on your computer. So I think you're going to see a lot of people. And if you're smart at social media, then
yeah,
you smart at social media. Is that proper? I don't know. That's how good I am at social media. So
I know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah. So, but I think you're going to see a lot more self-made people.
Yeah.
And
the other thing too is that, maybe there'll be less global superstars. Like, maybe you'll see less, like
more regional.
Yeah. Like, and which, to me, it would be way better.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, which is probably the way things were before, recorded music. It's like, this person's big in
Memphis,
this area, and they have a local following, and maybe they can afford to pay a mortgage.
Yeah.
And
Well, look at Dave Matthews, for instance. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
that was a
he's a
perfect
global
example. Like,
star, but
when he got his like recording contract, he didn't need that recording contract.
Right.
Fine down here in North Carolina. We don't need, we don't need to sign over all of our rights to this record label in order to become like we're doing fine.
yeah.
Right.
So I think that's a better. I don't think record labels have done anything good for musicians, and
They've done good making money for themselves, not even for the artist.
Yeah, and I think now that record labels are less of a thing, I think there are more humble artists. Like I think because when you look at like somebody like Bruno Mars, like I could see him as recognizable as he is. I could see him being comfortable just walking down the street and passing somebody and saying hello without worrying about somebody completely fangirling on him and trying to attack him.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I know that we've discovered so many artists that people don't know about just through word of mouth and, you know, like just someone that you just happen upon that, you know, on like someone going live on something, you know, like some platform, and, you know, they may not have a big following, but, you know, you wind up becoming one of their biggest fans just because it's when you see what the individual wants to do. And, you know, a lot of people are so unique and just themselves, and, you know, they don't need, to me, that's what I want to hear. I want to see and hear artists that are maybe reminiscent of another time, that if they were to go to a record company, they would auto tune and this, that, and the other thing. And then, you know, same thing. Like, so for instance, you know, there's this band that I listen to all the time, and they're based out of England, and they play like yacht rocky kind of music, like AM radio kind of music. And it is phenomenal. These are incredible musicians, and their songs are so catchy, and their albums, all of them are just so good, and they're each different, but have a record company touch them and they'd be totally different. I probably wouldn't like them.
Yeah.
Like they would say like, this is,
yeah, nobody wants to listen to this.
actually, they don't have a great, you know, that their image isn't probably what would work. So you never hear from them anyway.
Yeah, that's true. One of the guys, the band they're called Young Gun Silver Fox. And the one guy has like long silver hair. And like you look at him and you're like, you know, I mean, I look at him, I'm like, that's cool. But
yeah,
I'm a pop star.
He's not a pop star by any means.
Right.
You know? And then there's another girl, I forgot her name, Emily something, the one who plays like jazz guitar. And I mean, she's an incredible singer, and nobody, like, if Kwame didn't tag us in that video of her singing with Stevie Wonder, I never would have known who she was. And she's incredible.
Really?
Yeah. It's amazing, like the people that you can come across just on I will say the good thing about the internet is that if you go deep dive it into the internet, you can find some amazing unknown people, but it's hard to find.
Yeah.
That's one of my pet peeves about people. They're like, there's all the good music's already been made, or all the good bands have already existed. It's like,
absolutely not.
You're being kind of closed-minded if you really think that's the case. It's harder to look. It's harder to find. You know, there's no media outlet that's being like, you know, you have to listen to Led Zeppelin and cramming it down your throat. It's like you have to go out and find some of that stuff. But there's still great music being made, and there's music of all kinds. You know, if you're into metal, there's great metal bands. If you're into progressive rock, there's great progressive rock. If you're into yacht rock, there's great yacht rock bands.
Yeah.
There's always new music around that's worthwhile. It's just you have to go out and find it. Nobody's going to tell you what you need to listen to anymore.
Right. And the unfortunate thing too about bigger artists is a lot of these little artists are being ripped off by these bigger artists, you know, like either artistically, like vision wise, or songs sounding very much the same. And that's the unfortunate part of, you know, being a littler guy is that, you are kind of, you're being very unique and very individual, but it's unfortunate, like you have less protection in that regard, because then you have someone come in, name any big artist that comes in with something new that is exciting, and then this other artist that's like small and, you know, it's like, that's my song. You know, so it's an interesting, difficult world to navigate around.
It's an interesting time, but you know.
As far as navigation, and this is going back to, you know, the whole thing about Linkin Park. Right now, because of not being able to tour or do anything live, Mike Shinoda has actually been hosting live streams, and he just released 2 albums that he put out on his own, where he's had fans who were in his live streams that have actually recorded music with him. Like, he just took random fans that could actually sing and put them on a record.
That's
and
great.
he just released 2 records. I'll actually, once we're off the stream, I'll send the names of them to you so you can listen to them. But kind of to close out things, because I don't want to keep you guys too long, I'm curious, when we were leading up to this episode, Amelia, when you and I were talking about, you know, doing this, we were talking about, you know, how you were concerned with how our current state of affairs as far as socially were affecting, you know, performances. So what are your hopes for the other side of this, and how do you plan on, you know, kind of getting back that, or either for the band members or for the fans, kind of reinvigorating that fire? Because I think people are going to be terrified to come back out. I think that's the main takeaway, is that there's going to be a lot of paranoia to be in groups.
I think you're going to see a little bit of both, honestly. I think you're going to see certain people not coming out, and then I think you're going to see a lot of people just being like, I can't take this anymore, and just like, you know, coming out in droves.
Yeah, I gotta say, we've done a couple of you know, gigs since in the last couple of months.
Yeah, a couple weddings,
and it's been interesting to me about the last couple, is that it starts off very everyone's very standoffish and really adhering to social distancing, you know, and mask wearing and all that. And by the end of the night, it's like any other wedding.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, there's a fear, but, you know, and I imagine it's probably, you know, the same way it's kind of always been, you know, like, eventually it's like, well, if you're just sitting in your house in fear for your life all the time, then is that really living?
Yeah.
What's interesting about these gigs that we've done is you can actually watch that happen.
Yeah.
You could see people be like, well, we shouldn't be standing next to each other. And then they just go, well, you know, we're just going to do it. And whether I agree with that or disagree with that, it's what's happening.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen is initially things are going to be a little slow, and I think there's going to be an absolute explosion.
Yeah.
Of people. I think probably live music and live events are probably going to be a little sluggish to start, and then they're going to blow up probably unlike anything we've really seen.
I mean, of course, like, as musicians, and, you know, especially musicians, that this is our living, this is what we do to survive. Of course we want it to go back to normal. Of course I want to go back to working 5 nights a week. He wants to maybe go back to working every night. But, you know, I you know, with that said, of course, you know, I want to be careful. I want everyone to be careful. And I think everyone just kind of needs to do what they feel that, you know, works for them.
Right.
And, you know, I agree. I think at first it's going to be sluggish to start. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take a month, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take longer. But I do agree. I think at some point there is going to be like an explosion where it's just like, you know, like a speeding bullet train, and it's just, we're going to hop right back on that train, and it's just going to be like, all right, here we go. back to the way it was.
Two final thoughts for each of you individually. What advice do you have for people? Because I think, as well as understanding spoken language, I think being artists, you have maybe not a medical understanding, but I think you have a more intense understanding of mental and emotional health because of being artists. But what is your advice to people for kind of staying out of their own head, leading up to the explosion that you're talking about, and then maintaining that rush of adrenaline that happens once things go back to normal, so to speak?
Well, it's tough right now. I know personally, I struggle with, mental health, like depression and anxiety. I struggle with that myself. And right now it's hard to, can you reach it? We're trying to plug in the computer. It's hard right now. And what I have to say is, what's helped me personally is taking it, like one day at a time or 15 minutes at a time. Even if I'm feeling some kind of way for, a minute, like, I allow myself to feel these feelings, but I don't allow myself to fall down that rabbit hole, because that's a very dangerous place. And, staying in there too long. I mean, like, sometimes it's hard to dig yourself out. And being aware of feeling these however you're feeling, I think is important. But like I said, just trying not to sit in it for far too long. And just, if you're having a bad day, it's okay to have a bad day. Let yourself have that bad day, and, wake up the next day and just try to do better, try to feel better, try to do something that makes you feel better. And, I know that we're not allowed to, maybe certain things that we were allowed to do before, is certain things that we loved to do before, we can't do right now. And it's hard to navigate around that. What's helped me is just finding things that, like, new hobbies or things that, that I can do either by myself or, certain, like, physical activities that, I have discovered that I love. Like, I started roller skating. I love roller skating. And so that's something I can do by myself. It's something I can, like, skate around our neighborhood when no one's around. And even if I do it for 15 minutes, I even if I don't feel 100% better, I do feel better. So
yeah,
for me, finding something that you truly enjoy doing, whether inside or outside, has really helped.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Well, so I guess I've been finding more, being more creative has definitely is with music, because for a long time I didn't write any kind of music, and just, again, I was working 7 days a week pretty much.
Yeah.
So having that free time to focus on another aspect of music has been the thing that's been best for me. I mean, for a creative person, I think that having some time to figure out other things to do with yourself to for your creative mind has been good for me, and probably really good for any kind of creative person.
Right. Lastly, quick thing. What, like, when you are trying to get through a difficult time, what is one song lyric that you always lean on?
Mm.
Ooh.
Wow, that's a tough one.
I had to go deep for the last one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so something that I always say, and it's not necessarily like when I'm going through a hard time, it's like understanding other people and like what they do. There's an artist, her name is Nika Costa, and she has a song called Everybody's Got Their Something. And I find I say that a lot, like, you know, whether it's a you know, a vice or a certain thing that you do or a certain thing that, you know, you feel like everybody's got their something.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's, you know, and I'm not saying that to obviously like insult anyone. It's just, it's the understanding that, you know, not everybody is the same. Everybody is different. Everybody thinks differently. Everybody's got their something.
Sure.
I like that.
Yeah.
I think, and this is probably a pretty common answer, but the Beatles, in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And, you know, I think
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's just a good way to look at life, you know, like,
yeah,
you know, just put what you put out into the world. If you're, you know, a good person, then that's, you know, if you love people, love life, that should come back to you. And I think I've found you know, I hope I'm a good person, a loving person. I think that's, you know, I think I put that out into the world, and I'm pretty sure I've gotten that back. So
yeah. There was a thought in my head, and I hate that. Like, it just jumps out of my head. I hate things that jump because I get jealous. Is it important to reconnect with ourselves before we try reconnecting with each other after this whole thing's over? Because do you think it's safe to say that some people have gotten so caught up in what's going on that they lost connection with themselves?
I think it's probably different for everybody, but I mean, I think just as a general rule, you know, I think connecting with yourself is very important before, you know, you connect with everybody else. You know, there's a saying that RuPaul says is, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love anybody else? And it's, you know, it's the truth. And that can go for any aspect of life, you know? You know, and I think, you know, Diana Ross has said it too, like, you know, like you have to take care of yourself first. It's not selfish to take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of anyone else?
Right.
And, you know, and that's very true. So I think, you know, loving yourself and taking care of yourself is very important. And sometimes it's harder than others, but, you know, it's work that must be done in order to, you know, connect with other people.
Life in general, being pandemic or not.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Yep.
Well, I'm really glad we got to have this conversation. It actually went a little bit longer than I had actually intended, because I didn't want to keep you guys too long, but I think this was really fun, because I miss you guys, because it's like you try and, you know, pandemic or no pandemic, you try to always keep in touch with the ones who have had the biggest impact on you. And for obviously different reasons, you know, the both of you have had an impact on me, and, you know, being able to, you know, work with the both of you in different capacities, I think has, you know, taught me things about people, and it's taught me things about myself. And I think that the give and take there is, if you can find somebody that you can learn about, but who also teaches you about yourself, I think that is the perfect formula for, you know, a great friendship or a great relationship on any level. So I'm trying, I think with these episodes, I'm trying to find a relationship with myself by recognizing the relationship I have with others, being able to analyze it. So I appreciate the fact that, you know, we were able to do this. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I will talk to you both soon.
Yes.
And if we're back up in New York at the same time and all of this nonsense is over, we're either going to a concert or we're going to dinner.
Excellent. I'll take either of those.
All right. All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.